Hello, SYNGAP Land. My name is Michaud. This is episode 123 of SYNGAP 10, your 10-minute weekly briefing you need to know about SYNGAP 1. Today is Friday, November 3rd, and I'm going to be flying off to a meeting in D.C. next week, which I'm excited to tell you about, but I'll tell you about that next week. I got 3 reminders for you and 1 big idea. And so let me blow through the reminders and we'll do the big idea. Reminder number 1, the conference is in 27 days and the dinner tickets on Friday are separate. So if you haven't signed up for the conference, sign up for the conference and then remember to get tickets for Friday. I'll see you in Orlando in 27 days. Number 2, DC families. There's an Epilepsy Action Network briefing on November 14th. It's really important. Please go if you can, and please let me know if you're going so I can connect you with some good people. Number 3, listen to episode 122. Sign up for that net study with HIPAA. Anyone who speaks English anywhere in the world, if you speak English, which you should if you're listening to this, you can sign up for that study. So please do. Super important. All right, let's talk about EEGs. Here's the TLDR. Here's what you need to do. You need to have a Google Drive that you control, and you need to have all your EEGs on that Google Drive. That's the message. That's all I'm going to talk about for the rest of this. Why do you need your EEGs? Because we need an EEG biomarker, and we cannot have an EEG biomarker until somebody can get all of our EEGs and analyze them. And getting EEGs is a pain in the tuchus. So I'm going to make 2 points. I'm going to explain to you that this is real and it can happen and we can make it happen faster. And I'm going to tell you how to get your EEGs. How do I know it's real? 2021, look in the show notes. Paper on Angelman. Angelman, the gene was found in 1997. First patients before that, because this is a syndrome, separate lecture. 1997. And then they got an EEG paper in 2021. 24 years. Next link in the show notes. Beacon Biosignals published this year a really exceptional paper on SCN2A. First patient was found in 2001. 22 years. And that was really killer work by the folks at Beacon. That's an exciting paper. So 24 years Angelman, 22 years SCN2A. If we just let things take their natural course, our first patient was found in 2009. Does that mean we have to wait till 2029-ish for a SYNGAP1 biosignal? Is that acceptable? Of course it's not acceptable, right? If we let things run their natural course, maybe one day somebody will get their hands on enough EEGs and do this analysis. But the natural course is too slow for our children. We have to move faster. So the question is, how do we move faster? How do we get it so we have a paper next year in 2024 about SYNGAP biosignals? That's the goal. Well, everyone who's doing this work is going to need our EEGs. Let me tell you about, last week I had a call. I was talking to the CEO of Beacon about this SCN2A paper. I said, how do I get you to do this for SYNGAP? He said, well, first of all, I need a bunch of EEGs. He said, it's really expensive to collect these things. I'd have to go and pay people to go to all the hospitals and collect them. And do you have your EEGs? I have my EEGs. He said, how many other patients have their EEGs? I said, not many. He said, well, that's the problem. I hang up that phone call. I get on the phone with somebody, and Aaron Davinsky at NYU, very big deal. We're about to give him a grant to do some EEG related stuff. It's a separate grant. I'll talk about it later. But he started telling me, he's like, Mike, you could have access to your own EEGs. And if you could get them, then you could share them with me and we could do something. I said, Aaron, you're preaching. This is almost funny. You are preaching to the choir. And I understand. But he's sitting there telling me, hey, I want to do research on EEGs, but I need your EEGs. Okay, very funny. Hang on. Well, I got to go. Get on the phone with the clinical research coordinator from Johns Hopkins, where I'm doing the brain gene registry, which we've talked about and you guys should all be signed up for. And talking to this wonderful research assistant. And she's like, and then I'm going to go collect your EEGs. And I was like, oh. I said, let me save you the hassle. I said, first of all, do you understand what it means to collect EEGs? And she said, no. I said, well, let's brace yourself. I said, but in my case, don't worry. Here's a Google link. Here's all my EEGs. All of Tony's EEGs right there. Please take them. And she said, wow, you have all your EEGs on a Google Drive? I said, uh-huh. Pretty cool, huh? And then it struck me. I'm like, why don't we all have our EEGs on a Google Drive? And that's the point of my thing today. I want to encourage everyone here. You all have a Gmail account, which means you all have a Google Drive account. These files are about 500 megabytes each, plus give or take, right? Which means you can easily put them on a Google Drive. So I want everyone to set up a Google Drive with, my patient name, EEGs. And I want you to figure out how to get all your EEGs and put them on there. And then I want you to have those for the next researcher who interviews you for a study and says, can I have your EEGs? Or the next company who says, hey, we're doing research, and SRF calls you and says, can you please share your EEGs? We all should be sharing our EEGs. The more we have our EEGs in our control, the easier it's going to be for us to share those EEGs with researchers and academic partners. Okay. How do you get your EEGs? You go to the same way Citizen collects our medical records, right? You sign a form and you say, these are my medical records, I want a copy, and you give it to the hospital. Here's the difference between EEGs and medical records. Hospitals get requests for medical records all the time and they give them to you. They get it, they understand. When you go to a hospital and say, I want a copy of my EEG tracing in EDF, European data format. I want my EEG tracing in EDF format, please. They are going to think you are crazy. They are going to be like, this poor person has been hit on the head and they don't know what they're talking about. And they're going to send you a 2-page document that says, this patient was seen on this date at this time and had an EEG and they had theta this and delta that and spike wave whatever, and they have epilepsy and signed doctor whatever. And they're going to say, this is what you meant. Here's your report. And the first time you're going to be polite, but like the third time you're going to lose your mind, which is what I tend to do. And you're going to say, no, I do not want the report. I have the report because I'm signed up for Citizen. Of course I have my medical records, you doofus. I want the tracings in EDF format. And they're just going to look at you like you've been hit on the head. They're going to say, you poor thing, you should see a doctor. No, I don't want to see a doctor. I want my tracings in EDF format. And they do not understand that you actually want these files because they don't believe that anyone other than the precious few anointed neurologists who did a fellowship can even begin to decipher these things. And they're actually kind of right. Only neurologists can make sense of these. Indeed, only neurologists and companies like Beacon even have the software to open these things. I mean, nobody has any utility for these files. So they are rightfully a little bit confused as to why you want them. But they are out of their lane when they tell you can't have them because of that, because they're your files and you should get them, right? So you say, look, I understand no one's asked for this and you don't really even know how to give it to people, but I want you to figure it out and I want my tracings. And they're not going to be able to email it to you because it's too big, right? So they're going to have to burn it onto a CD, if you remember what CDs are, or put them on a USB stick, or send you a Dropbox or a Box or a Google or whatever link, right? Some kind of link. And that's how you're going to get them. And then once you get these precious files, you're going to put them in a Google Drive. And then when you're doing the brain gene registry with Dr. Smith Hicks, or when you're working with Aaron Davinsky, or when you're working with whomever else you're working with, you're going to be able to take these files and share them freely. That's the vision. Because I'm telling you right now, guys, if I had that conversation 3 times in 1 week, we're all going to be having that conversation 10 times next year. Right? That's my point. And if we as a community get and own our EEGs, we will be able to move faster and we won't have to wait until 2029 for a biosignal like SCN2A did and like Angelman did, right? God bless our other genetic friends, but we want to move faster because our kids need therapies now. And the way we get therapies now is we get our hands on our EEGs. Next question I'm going to get. Wait, Mike, aren't our EEGs in Citizen? Yes and no. Right. You log into Citizen, you're going to see all your medical records. And what Citizen does is they distill those down. They de-identify them. They take the critical data elements and they share them with researchers and industry. Wonderful. Thank you very much. That's like distilled information. The EEGs are massive files, right? Tony's EEGs add up to like a few gigabytes of data. And by the way, just to prove my point, I will share in the show notes a link to a folder with all of Tony's EEGs. Go for it. Download those files. Have fun. You're not even going to be able to open them, right? That's my point. There's precious few people who know how to open these things and even fewer who know what to do with them. And what we need to do is we need to aggregate these files and get them to these people as fast as humanly possible. And so that's my message today. I want you guys to get your EEGs. I want you to start collecting them, and I want you to have them to share. And by doing that, we as a community are going to be able to share them with researchers. If you have questions about this, ask me. We will put together a standard letter, like a medical records request letter, and I will probably put out a blog that I attach this episode to, where I say these are the steps to request your tracings, because I really urge you guys to please get your hands on them and share these out with any researcher who asks. That's how we're going to get a biosignal, by just good old-fashioned guerrilla marketing, everyone doing it for themselves, getting these folders in under your control and sharing them freely. Thank you so much for listening. Have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you at the conference.